Okay, so we have just a little bit more before we can get to chapter 2 and where we can actually start doing predictive analytics or big data analysis or data mining. um, we still have a little bit more. So he's going to talk now about having another sheet on his spreadsheet where he does some analysis, some simple analysis of the data that he's collected. So this is not Visual Basic, it's not programming, just using Excel. And so before he does that, though, I'll show you. He does something instead of what's called a pivot table. Or wait, let me think about this. No, I'm sorry. He uses a pivot table, but I'll just show you a pivot table in general first, and then we'll look at what he does. So first, just let me make a copy of this summary sheet so I can fool around with it and not mess up this data. So I'll just right-click on Summary here, and I go to Move or Copy here, and I create a copy, and I'll put it at the end of the sheets. So now I have a new summary sheet down here. If my computer is not too slow. Okay, so now I can mess around with this, and I'm going to just delete these blank rows here. I'm sorry, blank columns. Okay. Something's wrong with my computer, it's very slow. But, okay, so then I'm going to create a pivot table. So I just click, let's see, this is missing some data. I'm just going to delete this row right now. As I said, I can do whatever I want because it's not that I'm not messing up the other one. No, it doesn't like these, does it? So I'm just going to put in some fake data here because actually I think I'll undo that. Still okay. And I'm just going to put in some fake data here. I guess 5. Maybe I shouldn't put 5. That's not a good thing. I'll just put 0, 0, 0. Something's wrong with my computer. And I'll just put some fake numbers here too. I'm just trying to show you one thing. Okay. So let's just make a pivot table here. So the way you do that is you go to up here under Insert, and you click Pivot Table. Oh, before I do it, so a pivot table could be used to do what we did using the array enter. Remember, we got this data down here. We got this analysis down here, right? This stuff here, right? So this was summarized everything for the 5th month, for the 6th month, for the 7th month, 8th month, and so on. So we could have done it more easily with a pivot table. For some reason, he didn't want to use a pivot table there. He said something about this was used less, I don't know, processing or something like that. Maybe it was faster or something. And also, maybe he wanted to introduce the idea of array enter because he said he might use it in chapter 5. So I'm not sure why, but we went through it anyway. But you could get the same results very quickly using a pivot table. So you just click anywhere in the data set that you want, and then you go to pivot table, which is here. And you make sure that it includes all of the data that you want. So it looks like it is. It's going all the way from here all the way down. Now, the fact that these are blank up here might cause a problem. I'm not sure, but I'll just try it. So I click. Now it has some blank fields here too. Anyway, I click OK. Yeah, so it doesn't like that. So maybe I should Let me try this again. Let's just put something in here. Just no. In fact, I think what I'll do is delete the top row. Of course, you wouldn't normally want to do that. Let's try that again now. Insert, pivot table. Let's see if it... Okay, now it worked. Okay, so now what I can do is, for example, I click on when. That's the date field. That's the date field, right? So I click on that, and that's there. And now suppose I wanted to see the stats field as well. That was the stats book field, right? No, that's not the one I wanted. I wanted this one. This is the count of, I'm sorry, this is whether there was a sale or not in that particular time. So let's see that one. Remember, I deleted the name, so it looks weird. It's calling it 216, but it was really the count of it. Okay, so let's see. Anyway, so here's those zeros and ones, right? So at this time there was a book purchased, and at this time there was a book purchased, and so on. Okay, now remember, I want to collapse all of this data, or summarize it, so that I just see per month, right? So I don't want to see per hour like it is now. So all you have to do is click in here, in this column here, and then right-click on it, and go to Group here. And then it's going to say, do you want to group it according to month? You want to group it according to day? Whatever you want. So you just choose this. So if I wanted to see months, I just do that, and there it is. This is the same stuff we got when we did the array enter stuff. But of course the array enter was much more complicated. This is a much more powerful tool, I guess we could say. I don't know if we'd say that. But anyway, or if I wanted to change it to group, let's try group by day instead of by month. Okay, now I have it grouped according to day. So, right? So you can get this kind of stuff quite easily with this pivot table. And I guess I could group if you wanted to. For example, instead of one day, you could group by week, like that. Sorry, like that, right? And now you'd have the weeks. Okay, so you can get all this kinds of data, and you could get, you could do this one as well, and you could do the other columns and so on. If you wanted to do, for some reason, suppose you wanted the average ranking. This was the ranking column, right? So I could put that in there, and that is not the average, that's the sum of the rankings for this week. Now let's go back and get months. So let's look at months. Now it's not going to be very interesting because I used fake data, so actually it's going to be all the same, actually, or almost the same. Okay, now so this is for May, this is for June, for July, right? So this is the sum, but the sum of the rankings is not interesting, right? I can't think of any meaning or any reason why I'd want the sum of the rankings, but I would like the average ranking. But that's very easy to get. You just I think right-click here and click Summarize By. Currently we're summarizing by the sum, but we could summarize by the average. And now we get the average ranking per month, but it's the same, you see, because I faked the data, and basically I use the same data all the time. So it's always basically the same ranking. But if it was real data, it would be interesting because you could see how your average ranking changed over time. Okay, so same thing here. This is the sum, but I could have changed it to summarize by if I want to know how many there were, I could do that, use the count. If I wanted to know the average, I could use that, like maximum, minimum, and there are more options. What are the more options? I don't know, different ones like a standard deviation and so on. Other things you could do. Okay, so this is called a pivot table, and it's very useful. Okay, but we'll do that. Okay, so now let's take a look at what he says, because thing about pivot table is the thing that we have to adjust that this doesn't work, I believe, the way we have it now. And what I mean is, I go back to here. Now remember, the whole point is that at the end we are adding new data each month, each hour, right? So we're going. So these columns are going to grow, right? They're going to get longer. We're going to have more data in them, and I think a pivot table won't handle that. I mean, it won't automatically update. You have to manually update it, and he doesn't want to manually update the pivot table. I don't know why, but he doesn't want to. So so if you don't want to manually, then you can't just do it in this straightforward, simple way. So you have to do it slightly differently. You have to use something called a named range. Now he also says that Excel has a new feature called tables, where he thinks that you might be able to do this without using named ranges. But he's going to show us the named range approach to doing this. And again, the problem is that we're going to keep adding more and more data here every hour, and the pivot table won't include that new data unless you manually change it. And he doesn't want to do that. So we're going to study his way of fixing that problem. Okay, so we'll start that next.